So hello everyone, this is lecture 1 for the EMT, that is electromagnetic theory. So before starting these lectures, I recommend you to go to the mathematical physics and the vector analysis. There are 8 or 9 lectures. You must understood all or everything about the vector first, only then you can study this, because this electricity and magnetism is all about vectors. Okay, if you don't know about the vectors and the coordinate systems and all the theorems, you can't understand this properly. So I recommend you first to see those 9 lectures. There is a separate playlist for the vector analysis. Only then start this. Okay. So electricity and magnetism. So what is the syllabus? Let's see the syllabus first. So in this we will study about the electrostatics. We will study about the motion of the in electrostatics. We will study when the charge is stationary. Okay, all the things related to when charge is stationary. Then we will see that if charge is moving, motion of the charged particle in electric and magnetic field. Then we will study this. Then we will see magnetostatics. So magnetostatics is depending on when there is steady current, and then the everything related to magnetic field in the steady current is comes under magnetostatics. Then there will be electromagnetic induction and Maxwell's equation. Then electromagnetic waves and their applications. So these 5 will cover our complete electricity and magnetism. So we will study them separately. First we will start with electrostatics. So what is the syllabus of electrostatics? So in this we will study everything which is related to stationary charge, field due to stationary charge, or we will study about the charge density, we will study about the potential by them, and the electric field. And using the potential you can find charge density or electric field, and electric field will give you charge density and V, and they can relate with each other in many ways. We will see all those waves. Then we will see the in it we will see Coulomb's law and superposition principle. First we will see this thing. Then we will go to the Gauss law and its application. Due to symmetry we have some laws validate in this, so we will see them. Then we will study about the electrostatic potential, then Poisson's equation and Laplace equation, the electrostatic energy, properties of conductor, and we will study here about the conductors and the dielectrics only. Then there will be electric dipoles. In it we will study about the potential due to electric dipoles, electric field, and then we will see dipole in the external electric field. The next will be polarization. So in the polarization we will see bound charge, that is sigma b, and the rho b means volume charge and the surface charge. Then we will see field due to the bound charges. Then the Gauss law in the presence of polarized dielectrics. Then we will go to the electrostatic boundary conditions, where we will study about the electric field vector, displacement vector, and the potential. Then we will see the multipole. These are the some different topics in this. There is multipole expansion. We will see that how you can approximate V or E, that is potential electric field, due to the any arbitrary charge, distribution of large distance at a large distance. Then we will see also the image problem in this. So that is all we will study in the electrostatics. So first let's start the electrostatics. So it starts with the Coulomb's law and the superposition principle. So you must know this is a central force. Example of central force means if there are two charges, then force, if they I am considering them both are positive, then the force will be in this direction on this charge due to this charge. And this force can be given by the Coulomb's law, that is F equal to 1 upon 4 by epsilon naught Q multiply Q divided by the distance square, and the direction will be r cap. If it is negative charge, then direction will be minus r cap. So that's how you can write this force in the vector form, where this epsilon naught is the permittivity of free space, and the value of this is 8.86 into 10 to the minus 12 Coulomb square per Newton meter square. And for the calculation purpose you can write directly 1 upon 4 by epsilon naught as 9 to 10 to the 9. So this is the basic thing basic things about the Coulomb's law. Now let's see what is the electric field. So the force per unit charge, force on the per unit charge is given by the electric field. So that is at P point, electric field will be force per unit Q. It will be given by Q divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r square and r cap. So direction will be remain same as the force. So if you place any charge here, you can find a force directly multiplying the charge with the electric field at that point. So that is the application of electric field. Now let's see the superposition principle. So see, if there is any point P and you have the multiple charges, then at any point P you can find the total electric field, just the vector sum of each electric field due to this first, due to the second, and the third, and anyone. So any charge, just do the proper vector sum of each electric field, that will give you your resultant electric field. So E will be E1 plus E2 plus E and En. So this will give you your total net electric field. And you can write this in the summation form also. If their charges are discrete, then it can be written in this form. Qi, this represents the different charges, and this is the distance from the different charges to that point P. And this is the direction. For each electric field, the direction will be different in that direction. Now this will be a formula for the discrete charges. Now many times there are not always discrete charges. You can have continuous charges, like in a road or a particular volume you can have continuous charge distribution. Then you must use the integral. Means this charge will be become dq, and this will be summation will be to all the charges and their distances. So this can be written in this form. So this summation will change to integration when we come to the continuous charge distribution. Now let's see, for the continuous charge distribution we have some densities. So line charge density is nothing but charge per unit length. If there is some road and charge is uniformly distributed or non-uniformly, then you can find the lambda, that is charge per unit length. And lambda can be depending, means it can be uniform or non-uniform. For the uniform purpose it will be constant, lambda will be constant. For the, if the charge distribution is uniform, then it will be constant. But if it is non-uniform, then lambda will be depending on r, means charge per unit length will be depending on r at what point you are measuring. The charge will be non-uniformly distributed there. So now electric field in the continuous form can be given by dq can be written as lambda dl, and you can integrate dl from complete length. You need to find a line integral to solve this electric field. So that's why I told you that you must go to the vector analysis, because you don't know about everything. The vector means the line integral, surface integral, and the volume integral. So to understand them properly, you must go through those lectures. Now there is surface charge. So this surface charge density means charge per unit area. So here you can see that it will be constant if the mass distribution is, or the charge distribution is uniform. And if charge distribution is non-uniform, this sigma will be depending on the r or the area. So it will be non-uniform if it is depending on the area or the r, means where you are measuring the area, that is depending on that, then it will be non-uniform. So to find the total electric field, you need to do the integration, and this dq will be represented by sigma dA. This will give you dq charge. And now you need to take the surface integral for this to calculate the complete electric field due to this whole sheet. Okay. Same goes for the volume charge density, that is charge per unit volume. Now if it is uniformly distributed, this will be constant, charge per unit volume, and if it is non-uniform, then it will be depending on r at what point you are measuring. So that density will be depending on that. So now dq can be given as rho d tau. This will give you dq charge, and now you need to take the volume integral for this complete, and then you can find the electric field. And as you study the theorems in the vector analysis, the Gauss divergence theorem, Stokes theorem, that will very helpful to solve these integrals very easily. So that's why you must study them. Now we are seeing these discrete charges, so we must know that how, means in which coordinates and how we are taking in the axis system. So if there is some source point and there is some field point where we are measuring the electric field, and there is some source, then how you gonna take the coordinates for them? So it is just the Cartesian coordinates you have. So in the Cartesian coordinates, you can just place here your source point, and that can be given by these coordinates x prime, y prime, z prime. So always remember that when there is source, we will represent it by prime, and where we are measuring, we will represent it by small, means is r, and that is x, y, z. So this is source point, this is x, y, z, and this is separation vector between these two vectors, between the source and the field. So this r will be r minus r prime. So if it is x prime, y prime, z prime, this is x, y, z, it will be x minus x prime I cap, y minus y prime z cap or j cap, and z minus z prime k cap. So this r will be that. So that's how you will represent your source point and field point in the coordinate system. So r is the separation vector, r is r minus r prime. So r is this, r prime will be represented by these coordinates, and this separation vector will be represented by these coordinates, x minus x prime, y minus y prime, z minus z prime. Now see, the unit vector of this direction, separation vector, will be this vector divided by magnitude. So this will give you your unit vector in that direction. Now how you can now represent this complete formula as you find it there in the form of coordinates or the vectors. So at any point r, it will be 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught, and if rho is depending on r, so it will be r prime, because now the density will be depending on r prime. So d tau prime and r prime square means r square and r cap. This is giving you direction. Now this is because this rho is density for the source, because there is a charge distribution is there. That's why we have taken this r prime here. Okay, So wherever you are getting prime, you will consider that for the source. Okay, so density is means this will be depending on the source density only. So let's see some questions based on all of them, all of the things we have discussed here. So let's assume we have two charges, both are plus q and separated by 2l distance, and this is your center, and this point P is d distance apart, and you need to find the total electric field at this point, and these are the discrete charges. So you need to take the vector sum of different electric field. So because of this charge, electric field at this point will be in this direction, and because of this charge, electric field will be in this direction. Now see, both charges are same, so electric field magnitude will be same for E1 and E2. So 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q by r square, this will be magnitude which will remain same, but direction is different. That's why we have written them E1 and E2. Now this r will be under root L square plus D square using Pythagoras theorem. We know only this D and L, but we don't know this r, so we can find r in terms of D and L. Now this is x, this is y. So see, because of this, electric field in this direction, and let's assume this angle is theta, then this will be theta. So we can resolve this always any vector into two components, that is y and x. So this will be E1 sin theta, this will be E1 cos theta, and because of this will be E2 sin theta, this will be E1 cos theta. Now see, they are the E1 and E2 are magnitude representing here, so this will be same, and in opposite direction, so this will cancel out, and here it will be added, means total electric field will be 2E1 cos theta, or E1 E2 are same, so it will be 2E cos theta. So you just know the magnitude, it will be 2 multiply magnitude multiply cos theta, and cos theta can be given from here, it will be B over H, it means D over R. So E is 2 E1 cos theta, and this magnitude is this one, and cos theta is D upon R, and R is this, so you can write it here. Now R cube will give you this 3 by 2. Now see, electric field will be this because of this. So I hope you understand now that how can we find the, due to different charges, the total electric field, and how we can resolve them. Now see, if this point is very large, apart means very far distance from this, so D will be very large, then this L will be negligible. So we can neglect this L here. So we'll get D square here, it will give you D cube, and D will cancel out, it will give you D square in the denominator, it will be 2q by 4 pi epsilon naught D square. Now see, this is same formula as we do for the, means for a single charge, if there is only 2q charge there and you are finding at any point due to this point, it will be this. So it will act as these 2 points are at the same position, so it will be total charge 2q. So that's how we can see this in this way also. So this is the main general formula you must use. Now let's see one more example. So this kind of question, if C here were both charges are positive, now let's say one is negative here now. So what is the difference that this will make here? See, because of this, electric field will be in the same direction, but now because of negative charge, electric field direction will be changed to this way. Now see, we can again resolve this. If this angle is theta, this angle is theta, and there is this vector, so this can be resolved into the E2 cos theta and E2 sin theta, and this will be E1 sin theta and E1 cos theta. So again, this E2 cos theta will be equal to E1 cos theta, so this will cancel out. So E1 sin theta, E2 sin theta will give you total electric field, and magnitude of E1 E2 is same, so it will be 2E sin theta, and sin theta will be P over H, it will be L over R. So you can just write it as 2 multiply QL over 4 by epsilon naught L square plus D square 3 by 2, and it will, now the direction will be x cap, because this represents the x cap direction, and here the direction was this direction, it was y cap, that's why we have written y cap here. So this will be your electric field in the x cap direction, this will be your net electric field when this charge is negative. Now see, if again we will put D as very large, and then L will be negligible, so L will be very small, it will give you D cube here. Now see, this time we are getting D cube here, and in the previous case we were getting D square. So this was the same case as for the simple 2q charge, but now this is due to the dipole. So as you remember this result, we get always r cube in the denominator for the dipole. So that is the same case here, because this is a dipole again. So you must remember this results. Now let's see one more case. For the discrete charge, if there are more than 2 charges, this is q, 2q, 3q, and we need to find, because of 3 charges, we need to find the total electric field at this point. So it will be the individual sum or the vector sum because of this and because of this, because of this. So because of this we have E1 electric field, because of this we have E2 electric field, because of this we have E3. Let's say resultant of these will be some E vector that is making phi angle with x and y. So this is the net electric field. So this will E will be sum of E1 plus E2 plus E3. So how we can sum them? We can just find the components of E1 x and y and components of E2 in terms of x and y, E3 in terms of x and y, and add all the x and add all the y. That will give you total E. So for the E2, x will be E2 cos 45 and y will be E2 sin 45. And for E1 there is only x term, and for E3 only is y term. So x term, total x term for the E will be E2 cos 45 plus E1. So ex will be E1 plus E2 cos 45 plus this components this way will be 0, and that's why Ex will be this. Now we can write this E2, magnitude of E2 E1 is same, so we can take E1 outside. It will be 1 plus 1 upon root 2. So this will be your Ex component. Now for the Ey component, it will be E2 sin 45 plus E3. So E2 sin 45 plus E3 and 0 because of E1 component in terms of y direction will be 0. That's why we have taken the 0. So Ey will be this. Now see E3 magnitude due to E3 is 3 times E1. So we can write this in place of E3, we can write 3 E1 plus E1 divided by root 2. So just make this correction here. This E2 is 2 times E1 because we have 2Q here and Q here. So E3 is 3 times E1 and E2 is 2 times E1. So in place of E2 we'll write 2 times E1, so it will give you cos 45 will be 1 upon root 2. So E1 taken common, this will be your value. And Ey will be, then this will be E2 will be 2 times E1. So take E1 common, it will give you 3 plus 2 by root 2. Now you have Ex and Ey. So you have the components for E as Ex and Ey. So you know your E vector now. That is nothing but Ex x cap plus Ey y cap. And if you need to find the magnitude of this net electric field, that will be under root Ex square plus Ey square. And you need to find this phi angle, then that will be tan inverse Ey by Ex. So that's how you can solve this kind of questions. I told you about the Coulomb's law, I told you about the superposition principle, how we use this for discrete charges. But mainly you will study that for the continuous charges. So we will study about that in the next lecture. So thank you everyone.